All right. Well, I'm excited because we're going to be talking about just this journey in the Amazon world and all that's going on, maybe some predictions for where things are going, how you can optimize your PPC. We're going to kind of meander on this one, but I'm excited for this conversation with two great gentlemen, Kris Gramlich and Dustin Kane from Solozo, and the two guys and two Amazon sellers and a microphone podcast. So two guys joining us. Thank you for joining the Maximizing E-commerce podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited. Glad to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you guys. So I was on your show, and that was a fun conversation. We'll link to that in the show notes. And just to get into this real quick, do you guys mind giving your quick who are you, and then maybe we can dive into your story later. But I did want to talk about after that some kind of what we just learned at a recent event we went to.
Yeah. I'll start. You want my full background right now, or just
let's just go quick. It's high level. Okay. Who are you? And
okay, so I'm Dustin Kane. I am a recovering tennis professional.
Okay,
that was my career forever. But currently, I own and run my own e-commerce business. Dabble in lots of different things there, which we can talk about. But I'm also on the sales side for Solozo, which is an ad automation platform. So that's my role right now. That's the quick and brief.
Okay, cool.
That was good. That was good. Yeah. Kris Gramlich, Amazon seller, Solozo account executive. Love helping sellers. Talk to sellers daily about listings, PPC, and just the Amazon journey. I'm addicted to Amazon. I love the whole e-commerce background. So this is just fun just to chit chat, talk shop.
Yeah, exactly. And we were all just at the largest conference for Amazon sellers. In fact, if my voice sounds a little bit off, it's because I'm still recovering from the 3-hour time difference. So I know that's kind of complaining. And there's people that were there from Europe and farther away than that. So I really shouldn't complain about my 3-hour time difference. But it was that to me, I maybe I don't travel enough. I need to figure out ways to better manage the jet lag and whatnot. But for me, it was red eye flight there, and red eye flight back. And oddly enough, looking at JetBlue's website, both the flight there and the flight back, the history had a 0% on time rating for that flight. So that just made it a little bit more challenging. But anyway, enough about me complaining about the airline. What did you guys learn at Prosper Show?
Oh man, there was a lot. The main thing, I love networking with other sellers. It's like when Kris and I started the podcast, it just opened your eyes to, oh wow, there's a lot of people who are experts in like one little area, and there's a lot of things to learn and grab. So that to me was fun. It was fun to meet everybody in person that we had talked to on the podcast. It was great. It was good to meet up with clients that we are currently working with, meet them in person. That was a lot of fun. You get to know them so much better. But overall, it was a really good experience. We had a similar flight problem. With Kris and I, we made a connection in Denver.
Oh no!
30 seconds. I mean, they were shutting the door, and we snuck in. Otherwise, we'd have missed the first day probably.
Oh wow!
Travel is always fun this time, but really, it was good. There was a sense of normalcy. It felt like, okay, we're back. We're talking shop in person.
Yeah.
Maybe the pandemic is in the past. Hopefully.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. That part was great for us.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. What did you pick up there, Kris?
Yeah, well, with the luggage delay, I didn't get my luggage until the next day.
That's
so
brutal.
I was walking around, but luckily I had an extra pair of jeans and a shirt in my carry-on, so that worked.
Oh, nice. Did you have the toiletries there, or did you have to?
No, I had to go make a special shop, make a special trip down there and spend $35 on like 5 things.
Oh yeah, it was brutally expensive. I ended up buying deodorant. It was like $11 for not even the regular size, but like a smaller one. So the hotel makes their money that way.
Yeah, it was, but it is what it is. That's a lesson learned. But to kind of go off Dustin's point, the networking was great. There was an event around the pool at night, the first night, before the conference started. We got to meet a lot of people, talk shop. And then, that first day, it started out with a bang with seller tips and tricks. I don't know if you got the chance to go to that one, Kevin, but Tim Jordan brought up like all these people in space that are really have really good tips and like have tools and stuff, and shared a lot of good little tips. And that was good. That was like a good, like, okay, we're back into it, back to learning. Let's get these down and get moving forward.
What was the number one tip you took away from that?
Yeah, there's two. So
two. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, they're the first, because they were really both good. The first one was the importance of having Spanish listing or Spanish keywords in your listing somewhere.
Like in the back end or like in description? Or?
It was like if you're going to sell in Mexico, if you're going to sell internationally, making sure that your listings actually are like they read right and they actually make sure that they're fluent. And even in the back end, the Vanessa was talking about having Spanish keywords in the back end so that they index for it, and even bidding on it with PPC, even bidding on Spanish keywords at PPC was a topic. But that one won the top prize. But the second one I liked was I forget the gentleman's name, but he mentioned if you're going to launch a product. Now everybody's like launching products and then they go out to reach these influencers to help them like bring traffic to the listing. This one kind of took the other way around. It was go find an influencer and see if they want to do like an exclusive launch with you on a product you already have, and like, hey, this can be your exclusive SKU, like your exclusive offering. So if I sell a blue option and I go to an influencer and say, hey, I'll do one with you, but what's your favorite color? And they're like yellow, and I'll launch a yellow version, and the yellow version's only for you and your audience. Then that can be a way to launch another like variation or even a new product without having to have it set up and like without having to chase it after you launch it. Like you launch like a pre-launch list and all that. So that was really good. Those two alone got a lot of people excited.
Okay, got it. Now the Spanish one I've been hearing people talk about for a while, but you're not the first person that's mentioned the excitement from the Spanish one. I didn't attend that session, and now I kind of wish I had, because
it was good.
I can go more into that, because what she was saying is that
Vanessa?
It was Vanessa.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. She's great. She's been on this podcast.
So she was saying that there's a much larger than we know population that shops on the US marketplace that's Spanish speaking. So what they do is when they go to Amazon.com, they change up in the upper corner the translation. So it gets translated to Spanish. So she's saying what happens a lot of times is your listing is not optimized to translate in a way that is readable. Like Amazon's just translating it like a Google Translate.
It's just the machine translation.
If you're using, catchphrases or words that don't translate right, then it looks bad. So she's saying you're losing your audience there. So she's like, it's really simple to have somebody optimize for that translation so that when it translates, and I'm not sure exactly how she's doing it, but it translates, it's very readable. So it's not just having the search terms in the back end, it's actually people are reading your listing in Spanish. All I have to do is hit one button and they're reading it. And so you want to make sure that you're optimized, because it was like millions and millions of shoppers that do that in the US. And so she was like, it's an easy win. It's like low hanging fruit. Nobody's doing it. You should be doing it.
I'd have to find out like what is it she's doing, because you can't put in like, here's my Spanish version of it.
Right.
Like in Canada, you just have your English, and then someone in Quebec hits French, and every now and then we'll have someone be like, okay, what I got is not what was advertised. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to talk to Amazon because they translated that. So that's interesting. I'd be curious how you do that beyond just like back end keywords or hiding an alt, text or something like that.
I'm not 100%. It was a 2-minute tip. She had.
Like it was. These tips were like quick, and
it was the concept of doing that. Which is great. And then the influencer part that Kris mentioned, he went even further. He's like, what if you partnered with an influencer and you develop a product with them?
Yeah.
So if it's a chef that's an influencer,
yeah,
you say, you know, why don't we make a line of chef products, knives or whatever, with your name on it or your logo? I'll manage it. You promote it. We do some sort of profit share, and now you've bypassed the launch process. Like, it's going to exist because of that influencer. They're going to put it out there, and all the people want to buy their products. So they don't have expertise in product development, but they have an audience. You get a partnership. Really interesting, because something like that, it's like getting a celebrity. It's like getting a product endorsed.
That one is an interesting one. Maybe I'm thinking into it too much. I would want to know specifically, if I do come up with something and I'm putting all my money out for this product, unless they are, you know, putting some skin in the game too, what am I truly getting out of it? And not just they share it in Instagram stories a couple times. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I could see that could go awry if there's not an agreement on what that looks like.
Sure.
Because these influencers are also getting bombarded with people and offers. But I definitely think in the influencer space, you have to get creative, and you do have to make it something that would be interesting to them if you want them to actually do it. Because I mean, you guys know what it's like. We get hit up with people wanting to come on the podcast all the time, and it's like, most pitches are terrible. You know, it's hey, here's all the things about me and how I'm going to be so great on your show. It's like, delete, you know? So I think a lot of people just don't understand that that's I guess more than anything, learn the lingo and, you know, make it more for them, but, and get creative, kind of like how that one was. Well, what else did you guys learn at the, at Prosper Show? Definitely agree on the networking and, things of that nature.
There was a lot of talk about other channels, Walmart specifically.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I think the fascinating part about that was learning the insides of, like, where is Walmart actually trying to go? What are they actually trying to do? And it does look like, you know, though they have a huge advantage. They've got an actual distribution center within 5 to 10 miles of everybody in the United States. Via their stores, and they're transitioning. Some of their stores the retail space is shrinking, and they're whether it's like 1-day delivery or pick up in store, all that is e-commerce because the order happens online. So, you know, and Tim Jordan was really good about talking all about what the possibilities with Amazon and I mean, not Amazon, with Walmart.
Right.
So that part was really fascinating to me. And that's like a whole nother, I know Kris is selling on Walmart. I'm not yet. So learning a little bit more about, hey, is it good to get our foot in the door right now to establish ourselves in that marketplace, even though it might be 10% of the Amazon sales? So there was a lot with Walmart and other marketplaces that was really fascinating to me.
Yeah, the Walmart section was really really good one. There's things that you can do with Walmart that you used to be able to do like back in 2012, like with Amazon. Sure. So there's a lot of things you can do now, and Walmart, like the reverse, like, so this, and I don't want to steal the thunder of their conference, but sure. But like, we always think long descriptions are good for keywords. Walmart's the opposite, like short descriptions.
Yes. Titles. There's a different, like, there's definitely a difference. Titles.
Like the shorter titles are better on Walmart, and more descriptive descriptions are better. Where on the Amazon side, we're always worried about keyword stuff in the title, and like descriptions don't really matter. It's the inverse of Walmart. So that was really cool to learn, and just some things you can do with reviews and stuff. So Walmart is definitely, I think they're definitely gonna. And there was a Walmart employee there. Walmart worked in the main office. He was there talking about how they're trying to be more helpful with sellers and try to get more brands on here. And I think they're like understanding the game. Yeah. And if they want to compete, they got to have things that are going to be appealing.
Kim, we got to go with the most exciting tip though, because were you in this one, Kevin? Did you see that Walmart side talk at all? Were you in that one?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is a big shout out to Tim Jordan, because this tip was amazing. So Walmart right now allows for reviews to be imported. So they're okay. They're classifying the reviews as verified, or I forget what the other one was. There's non-verified, which they're okay with. And then you can bring in reviews from other channels, with the exception of Amazon.
Right.
But what you can do, and take it for a grain of salt because it's totally fine right now, but it may change. But if you have a Shopify store, Shopify
you import the Amazon
can import Amazon,
exactly,
and Shopify to Walmart can be imported. And he was showing on Walmart, he did yoga mats. So you Google yoga mats on Amazon, or you search yoga mats on Amazon. Everybody on the first page has like 10,000 reviews.
Right.
You go to Walmart, and the top 4 had less than 200 reviews. And they were the best selling yoga mats on Walmart. So he said, imagine if you sell yoga mats and you got a couple thousand reviews and you import them, what that looks like to the shopper.
And apparently Walmart, they favor that. Like the review count is like, obviously probably is with Amazon too, but review count is added into that ranking. So if you've got a lot of good reviews, or if you got reviews, it'll help your organic ranking go up. But you should have heard the gasp of air when he mentioned that tip in the conference. People were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, he put a caveat. He was like, "It may not be forever."
Right. May not be forever, and you never know when they change their algorithm, and it might be hard to remove those if they don't like it one day. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's definitely an interesting one. But yeah, the conference was interesting. It was, it's a big show. And so I think for some people, there's the question of, do I go to a bigger show? Do I go to a smaller show? I kind of saw you guys from a different distance, but we didn't get a chance to connect. And some of it, as we were talking before we hit the record button, is that it was really spread out. Like, there were downstairs was the conference spaces, and then upstairs was the exhibit hall. And then while all that's happening on, there was a major home improvement retailer was having a conference as well, and they probably had an even bigger conference, and they had tons of people there too. So it was at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which is enormous. And so that would be one thing that, like, if I was to make a recommendation to the conference folks, having worked in the conference business, I would suggest getting something where they fit more as a full house group, where everything's a little bit more compacted and not so spread out. And that was a complaint I did hear from quite a few people, but now I'm just getting into conference related stuff, which I don't know that everyone's necessarily into.
Well, to touch upstairs and downstairs is a little it wasn't like it was like a half a mile away.
It felt like that, yeah, because you had to go down a hall and then turn right, and then you go upstairs. So it wasn't just you take an escalator right outside of one room and go up. It was
like way down.
It was a little bit of a walk. I actually had to buy Band-Aids at the super expensive gift shop because the back of my feet were starting to rub on some new shoes that I had bought, and I was like, oh yeah. So some of that was from all that walking.
It was spaced out. There's no doubt about it.
Yes. Now, what's interesting is I hosted a panel on international selling, and one of the guys on the panel was in charge of, at one point in his career, he hasn't been with them for a few years, but he was an ex-Amazonian, and he was in charge of, I want to say, the apparel, watches, basically anything is like apparel and accessories for Amazon Japan. And so clearly he had a pretty good background. I want to say it was according to his resume, $3 billion a year in revenue that he was responsible for. So he was pretty knowledgeable. One thing that he said, which stuck with me, is he goes, when you put in support cases, the person who's reading them might not know English at all and might be using a Google Translate machine translation to come up with it. I'm like, that's starting to make sense why sometimes you get a completely different answer from what you put in a support case about.
Yeah. It's like, it's like the Spanish listing we were talking about. It's like, you really got to think all of that through. So that's a challenge for sure to overcome that.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you overcome it? What did he say?
You just have to keep it short, concise, but really to the point and don't accept the answer right away, which I think most sellers have kind of come to terms with it. Sometimes you just have to keep submitting a ticket over and over again, and eventually you get the answer you want. Because you also have to, which he said something that I think we all kind of intuitively know, that generally speaking, you're talking to someone where you know more of how the system works than they do.
Yeah.
And this was interesting, an Amazon insider saying this, not just like people or sellers are like, yeah, we know better than they do. But like he was saying it himself. So it was interesting. So let's go back in time, pre-Prosper Show. How did you guys even get into this world of
this is gonna be good
Amazon seller? I'll let you guys decide who kind of takes this one first.
I'll go first again. We'll keep the same order. So I go ahead. What were you
no, I was gonna say, so Dustin, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
For those who are listening to the audio.
Yeah, it's Dustin talking right now. I grew up as a tennis was my passion. I played tennis all growing up. My father was a pro. I ended up playing tennis in college in Tennessee. And while I was doing that as side money, I was teaching lessons. So I got into the teaching pro world. I got my business degree and I got my master's in business. And this is just not on the topic, but I don't use any of it.
right.
Like, okay, I learned what profit is. Great. I can learn in 2 seconds. So not necessary. Everything I've learned about Amazon is that nothing was taught about that, obviously in college. But so I was a tennis pro. I was making a good living. I got married, had 2 boys. That was my life for a long time. But I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Teaching lessons and all that stuff is very entrepreneurial. You got to go out and get your client base. You got to provide a product. You got to be on time. All those things that you're doing. So I always had time with that schedule allowed me to, I might have a 4-hour gap in my day. So I was always trying new things out. I did all kinds of affiliate marketing. I did a bunch of flipping on eBay and doing different selling stuff. I even created which is now failed, but a software that helped tennis pros schedule lessons.
Oh, wow.
I was pretty early to that, and then got completely devoured by everyone else who came in later. So that's a first fail. But anyway, about 2014, I started hearing a lot about Amazon FBA, the opportunity. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is how one person could actually scale. I could sell to everybody. I was telling people what I was doing. Nobody got it. I was telling my mom, my dad, my friends. They're like, oh, that's cute. What are you, flipping a couple products on Amazon? I'm like, no, I'm developing a brand. I'm launching it. It's gonna be great. So that was in 2014. That actually grew really fast. Back then, obviously, when it was easy, I started with I was just throwing products out there. I wasn't focused on branding or anything like that. Some of my first products were in the fitness space, and I killed it. Like my head was exploding. I was like, what is going on here? In 2 years, I'd completely replaced my income. 3rd year in, I quit my job teaching tennis, moved back to Kansas City, where I'm from. And for about 2 years, that was full-time Amazon doing my thing. It was great. Made some mistakes there and really quickly found out all these like commodity products that were paying all my bills were getting crunched really quick. Like it was getting much harder to compete. Right around that same time, which was interesting, I was at a meet. I didn't actually go to the meetup. I was going to a meetup in Kansas City that was promoted by Solozo, which is based out of Kansas City. Didn't go, but got all these emails from them, and they blasted an email out saying they were looking for Amazon sellers that were interested in working on their team. So I joined. I was like, I've got time. I mean, I want to learn more, and I might want to hedge my bets a little bit on being all in on this right now, where I'm seeing this downtrend. It's been great. That's how I met Kris. About a year in, we're like, we got to start driving. We got to tell people about our Solozo. People don't just click on Google ads and just go, and then it's like a guaranteed. We need to start a podcast. We could talk to all these people. That's been the most fun, the most rewarding thing I think that we've done. Networking, community. That's taking all of my previous knowledge on Amazon, and now I'm doing all kinds of things. I'm actually big into big. I'm 3 weeks into it, with a pretty healthy launch into online arbitrage as another side, which has been really fascinating. I could tell some stories about that. It's early, but it's working. And that's helping fund new product launches down the road for private label. So I really enjoy being kind of like a guinea pig. That's always how I've been anyway. I like testing things out, I like going fast, try it, see if it works, and doing different things. So yeah, I'm in the game in like all 5 different ways.
So well, I lost count there, but that was but it's definitely a serial entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah, it's an absolute blast. Love it. And our role right now, we get to talk to sellers every day. Obviously, we're talking about mostly PPC, talking about Slozo, but we really get to know them, help them. It's almost like consulting calls where everybody learns something. So it's really enjoy our role right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. In a nutshell. So Kris, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to follow there, Dustin. But
you can do it. You got a good one.
So as a younger, like when I was younger, I always used to dabble in like eBay and was selling on eBay and stuff. So that kind of got my feet wet and like selling online, and that was a real thing. So I didn't really know what I was going to do, what I wanted to do when I was growing up. So I went to school to be in criminal justice, to be a detective. I was going to be like on the crime scene unit, and like figure out who killed who and figured out like what happened there. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But there came a point where they wanted me to intern at a prison here, and that was the stopping point. I was like, I'm not gonna.
Did you actually go into the prison to intern, or you just said, "Yeah, I don't want to do that"?
No,
was it Leavenworth?
It was Leavenworth. Oh. Yeah. Like you had to go intern at it.
Yeah.
I was like, no. I think I'm good here. And so
yeah, that would be brutal.
Yeah, that was, and I was getting older, and I was like, "That's I don't think I want to do this route." But I found it interesting. Looking back, I'd probably study something different. But I had a buddy who worked at a e-commerce company. They sold all their stuff on their own website. And he said, "Hey, we have an opening. You want to come join the team?" Came join the team. I joined the team as a customer service rep. So I was talking to customers about the problem and like how to help them out with their item. And then shortly thereafter, a job opening came up within the company to be a buyer. So I was buying the product we were selling. So kind of like private label, where you're buying the product and you're selling it, kind of have some same ties. So I was buying the goods, trying to get great deals and then trying to sell them on this website. Amazon came into the picture, and they wanted to sell on Amazon because 90% of the sales or 100% of the sales were all just on the website, and they wanted to add FBA. I got in charge of helping out with FBA and learning about it because it was fairly new. That like, we'll give it to the new guy; he'll let him figure it out. What can he mess up? Well, that's where I got addicted to it because you could quickly find. Like I learned how to. We got licensed to sell Nike. This was back in the day. We were selling Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and quickly learned how to create a shipment. Quickly learned how to send it into FBA, and that's when I got like the moment like. You could sell. I could do this on my own.
Right. We've all had that kind of. I could do this moment.
I could do this on my own kind of thing. So I was still dabbling with eBay, and on eBay I was selling clothing to try to capitalize, get some funds going.
Right.
So I was going to thrift stores and like buying like these Robert Graham shirts for like $5 and like selling them for like 150 on eBay. Yeah, but you have to do a lot of work. Yeah, I had like a whole clothing rack in my basement, and I had measurements and inventory system, but I was doing all this to kind of generate some capital, and I did that, and finally that had to die because that was just way too much work.
Right.
Yeah, just imagine
flipping individual items can be tough.
Yeah, measuring them and taking photos, so a lot of work. So I spent a lot of time on YouTube learning how to sell on what FBA was, and that's where I found the clothing. There was even like you can be an author and you can make a book and like you do Kindle. Well, I looked at that, and then this guy was talking about FBA, and so I just found a product. I don't know how I found it. I just picked a product. This is about 2014. Just picked the product. I took out 2 credit cards. I put all the inventory that I was ever purchasing on a credit card. At the time, they wanted like me to order 500 units. I was like, no. Let me get like a case, and we'll figure out if I'm going to keep doing it. luckily enough, all I had to do was commit to more packaging. So I had to prepay for packaging, but they would give me smaller units. So if I paid for 1,000 packaging, I could just get maybe 70 units to start with. And
interesting.
Yeah. So we did that.
Hope those first 70 sell.
Well, they did. They started to take off.
Oh, good.
I put a case in and no advertising or nothing, pretty skeleton listing, and they started to sell and just kept selling and selling and selling. And so I'm still working at this e-commerce company while I'm doing this, and still doing it for years, and still selling stuff on Amazon, made a couple of business logos, brands, and then about 2018, I got let go from the e-commerce company that I was working at. They consolidated my buying role to the other buyer, and so now the senior buyer was taking on more roles, and my position was gone. So at that point, I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? And that's when I went to a meetup. I went to talk about Amazon, and when I was sitting there talking, I was like one of the only sellers in the conference or in this meetup, and Solozo was there, but there was like only a handful of sellers. And so we're chit chatting, talking shop, and something's like, why don't I just see what Solozo has, and I can work at Solozo, and I can still talk to sellers just like I do here, but now I'm getting paid for it.
Right.
So I reached out to the Solozo team. This is when we were younger and smaller. They had an account exec open up. Joined the team, and rest is history. So now my day-to-day is just talk to sellers and get to learn more. I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have been out there, networking faster and quicker, because it's been a blast. I love it.
Nice. So where I kind of want to take this conversation is, you had mentioned Solozo has gotten bigger, and I know Solozo is also, if it's okay to say, I think it's public, been acquired. So we're seeing a lot of, and this is one takeaway I had from Prosper too, is I didn't realize how much, not just you hear about consolidation with aggregators coming in and buying other businesses, but now there's aggregators buying aggregators. There's, I don't know if aggregator is the right word, of service providers and, software tools. We're starting to see some of that consolidation. So just in general, and another point someone else had made is that the exhibit hall looked more, I don't know if professional is the right word, but it was maybe more mom and pop feeling 3-4 years ago at Prosper, whereas now it looked, this is when I was in the conference world. If you saw like big hanging signage, or there's almost like a roof above the booth, like if there's some sort of cover, like the how much money they must have spent on the booth tells the story of that industry somewhat. And there was a lot more of that kind of next level. And so there is kind of a feeling that the Amazon space itself, like selling on Amazon, is maturing. So what are some things you think people should think about as we kind of look through that lens of, I think it's still, you can still get started. You can still create a business. If you're small and you want to get bigger, you can still do that because you have advantages. But what are things people should think about that maybe the advice would be different than it was 3-4 years ago, since you guys have been around longer than I have?
Boy, that's a great question. And you're 100% right. I mean, the feeling is getting to be, there's so much like Wall Street capital and investment now going into this that it's treated that way. It even changes like the lingo a little bit, how people are talking. So it's interesting. But the takeaway for me, and this is what I talk to Kris all the time about this. I mean, when we started, I wasn't thinking about a brand. I was thinking about, can I sell a widget? And then if that widget works, can I sell a different widget over here? And it's just like whatever made the numbers work. But somebody who's starting right now, you can now, like, this was so far from my mind back then, is this is an actual business that's like sellable, that somebody wants. If you go into that now with an exit, if you started with the exit in mind now, you're going to do so much better. You're going to do everything. You're going to run your books the right way. You're going to have your books organized in a way that is attractive to a buyer or makes your sale better. Like even like how you do it. Are you doing like cash or accrual method on your books? All those things can make a huge difference on the exit, and the exit's possible. I think the opportunity, the thing that I would take away is like, yes, this money's coming in, but there's a billion niches also where it hasn't touched yet. And if you can service that niche and have a really good brand in there, then you become attractive asset to buy. So, I mean, I think it's exciting in that regard. I think if you go into something, the downside to that is if you want to sell something that is, a lot of these aggregators are buying like supplement companies and all this other stuff. And, it's going to be a tougher road going into those spaces because they've got 200 grand they could lose for, 6 months on a product that maybe you don't have, and they're going to outcompete you in every which way. So I think it makes product selection more important. It makes branding more important. It makes, organizing yourself for an exit more important. But I think from the tool standpoint, like we're a SaaS company, there's big benefits when SaaS companies merge and you've got more of an all-in-one type tool. If people do that if they do that really well, it can become more of a one-stop shop for sellers, make it easier, just like anything else, like all the the commercial software that stock exchanges or stockbrokers use. I mean, those things were conglomerated and aggregated 20 years ago, and now you've got these full, it's expensive, but you've got full service software that covers everything. And I think we're moving towards that point. So it could be good for both sides, for the SaaS businesses to start and hustle. But it does change the feel. It's much more, you just feel like you're at a different environment. Like, am I at, so it was almost like being at an Expo West or something that where like retailers were, brands were selling to retailers, old model. Those were much more that feel earlier than this is. So it's interesting. But Chris, Kevin?
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of money in the space. I mean, the booths were crazy looking. I mean, we talked to we talked to some vendors and just try to get an idea of the cost.
Oh yeah, and the booths are not cheap just to get the space on the floor. Not cheap, I won't say numbers, but people shared with me some numbers. I'm like, oh wow, this is not inexpensive, and they're only doing that if there's a return on their investment. So
right. Now on the seller side, and I think Kevin, your question, if I understood it, like, can you get started now if someone wanted to do this? You can. If you want to ever start a brand, definitely starting a brand is easier now with the traffic that Amazon provides you. So if you ever wanted to start something, we're just using Amazon as the channel to get that traffic, right? Doesn't mean that you always have to be an Amazon company or an Amazon brand. You're just using Amazon's traffic to launch this brand that you wanted to create. So I think that's never been easier. Like that's pretty easy to do because you're just putting your brand inside the traffic. To find out what that is, though, Amazon launched this tool called Product Opportunity Growth Tool. I'll probably blotching the name, but it's inside your Seller Central account, and that gives you true data on like search volume growth. So if you are wanting to start a brand in a certain niche, you're able to really see where the growth is coming from, what products people are looking for. And it also shows you like how many SKUs and how many sellers there are. And so you can really like tap into something early before all the masses find it, using other tools. So I still think Amazon is just a channel to use to launch a brand. I would definitely do it. We had somebody on the podcast, you probably had her too, Kevin. She talks about a 3x2 method where you just launch 3 products, just get like 100 units of each, see what sticks. And if 2 stick, hopefully, you scale those up, and you
I like that concept.
You just continue to go. So that would be what I would do. Really, is like the 3, see if they stick, low minimums, low capital, like low danger. Like you're not going to lose your shirt real quick. and then just scale it up. So yeah, I would definitely start. I mean, what's the saying, like plant the tree was yesterday or something like
the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is now.
Everybody says that.
All right, so the next question I want to ask about is also, it feels like there's more levers you can pull and more places to go for data, like the new report you were talking about, or you go into like campaign manager and for advertising, and there's a lot more places to look, there's a lot more reports, there's a lot more other things. It just feels like there's more levers you can do and more things you could do. And I feel like when you go to a conference as a seller, you leave with this to-do list of things you feel like you really must be doing. You should be doing these things. What would you suggest to someone to figure out, like, how do you decide what to pick next?
It's such a good
Where do
question.
you focus your time?
That's such a good question. And that's exactly how we felt leaving. We're like, oh my gosh, I've got a monster to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much time is it going to take to translate all my listings into Spanish? Just that one task. That was a 1-2 minute note.
Right.
Like, oh, and now I got to go adjust all my Walmart listings. And now I got to go. I mean, it is overwhelming. And I think coming from the aspect of having it be easier, I guess, in 2014, and now we're moving into a place where you can be successful, but you got to treat it more professional. I think it lends itself to, like, building teams right now in your business is important. I think if you can start building a solid team early on, like, even if it's just like, okay, I want to hire someone to do PPC, I want to hire someone to do product research, I want to hire, it's like, you could have a full-time person just doing listing optimizations. So, because you can't do it all yourself. Wearing 900 hats is really tough, because you end up, what I find myself doing is I end up doing all the stuff I like, and all the stuff I don't like
that's so true,
left a little bit by the wayside, and there could be really important. Like, I hate accounting. I'm in the PPC space, but I really don't like PPC, like the work involved in the PPC, like the manual work of adjusting everything all the time. So obviously the, tools that can help do that. So I think what you find out is, to scale your growth and to, like, tick all those boxes of things that you could be doing, you need to build a really solid team around your brand. And that's part of the growth, plus, to that point, one of the main things that you talk about, if you're focused on the exit, one thing that aggregators look at is how important are you to the business? It's huge. If you're the reason why all of this is working, it's all your grinding, that may not be that sellable, because they have to replace you when they buy it. But if you've built out a full team where it can be an easy transfer and everything keeps running the same way, you've got your SOPs in place and everyone knows what they're doing, then it becomes more attractive. So I think both of those things go hand in hand.
That's a good point.
I was talking to a bigger seller, just to kind of jump in here. I was talking to a big seller at one of these networking events, and he was telling me that before he came to the conference, he went through the entire the Prosper conference. He went through the entire speaking list and went through and made sure that he marked what he wanted to focus on at the conference. So if his focus was, we're not on Walmart, or we're on Walmart, but we're not doing really well, I'm just going to go attend the Walmart opportunities and just really dive into that area and focus on just Walmart. And that's going to be my take-home action that I get from the conference. So I think it starts, like, as you attend conferences or as you look at something to do, find out where you want to put your focus at when you get back, because it's going to be tempting to go see everything. Like, and Dustin, we were doing the same thing. But if you know where you want your focus to be when you get back, then just only attend those certain segments of the conference and then come back and take action on what you learned.
Yeah, that's a good point, because at Prosper, I think they had 6 tracks, so like collection of topics. So, like, for example, there was a expanding to Walmart, there was an international selling, which I was part of that one. And, there was talk about like influencers, and there's talk about, this other stuff. And there's a lot of things that just feel like I should be doing this. And one of the things I also think people have to evaluate is, what is the potential reward on the flip side of that? Mm-hmm. So for example, I'll just use the Walmart one. I know I'm a very biased one. People who have been listening to the show know I have a service where I help people expand in international marketplaces. But the session before mine, I went around and just looked in all the rooms, and the tracks were all pretty much in the same rooms throughout the day. And so like the Walmart one was very full. The international one was not quite as full. The one I was in ended up being fuller, and I'm not going to take credit for that because it didn't even really have our names. I think just the way it was worded was sexier. So, because if you're looking at the list of sessions, it doesn't even say who the speakers are. It's just like time and topic, which is what tends to get people. So, but the Walmart one, people are really gravitating towards, and that tends to be maybe at most, I hear people say 5-10%. You go into Canada selling on Amazon, you're probably looking at 10, 20, 25%. If you're looking at UK, it could be 10 to 30% of your US sales. And then you can go into the like mainland Europe and add on top of that. So I feel like sometimes too, like we want to get away from Amazon so much because we all have that love-hate relationship where we love the traffic, but we feel like we're too much eggs in one basket or whatever the case is. So I guess maybe where I'm getting at is there's also that you don't know what's on the other side. So how do you prioritize where you think you're going to get your best results? And I know I can speak from my experience and where I've seen it help others, but I'm not always right. And I always think people should validate anything I tell them, look into these things. So how do you balance that risk versus reward of where to focus your time?
It's definitely the shiny object, right? Like Walmart's definitely the shiny object right now.
Yeah.
I think it might be the fear of missing out on the boat that's about to leave port on the Walmart side,
Right.
You want to make sure you get in on it while it's good before it gets too competitive. So that may be a reason why people gravitate to it. But I like what you said, Kevin, about just go to Canada, you get quicker return.
Right, exactly. Well, you already understand how Amazon works. You don't got to figure out like how to rewrite the listings for a new algorithm. Maybe you have to change a keyword or two.
Yeah, but Kris, you hit on it though. I mean, I think to evaluate where to put your focus, I think it's on what's going to give you the best ROI. It's like you're going to be spending, you have a limited amount of capital. You can spend it somewhere. How quickly is that going to return to you, and at what level? It's just like, like going to Canada, you've already got your inventory. You've already got, you might be overstocked. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might cost you nothing essentially to launch in Canada. And now if all of that's maxed out, if you're everywhere, then Walmart becomes an attractive option. Maybe you got money now you can put there. But I think it goes down to return on investment.
Your product, like if you have a better product, if your product is meant for the Amazon or marketplace or Walmart marketplace, like maybe it's a cheaper consumable and it has really low competition or something, whatever. And maybe it doesn't work in the Canadian marketplaces.
Yeah, maybe there's too much something over there.
Yeah, it's all about the ROI, and I think that's the tough part about a business owner. I was talking about building out teams and get people to do everything, but even that's a limitation. You're only going to have so much of a team,
right?
So you do have to figure out when you leave a conference and you've got 200 new ideas, maybe 5 of them. It's the 80-20 rule. Maybe 5 of them.
Right, exactly, and it's not just return of investment on your money and your capital; it's also your time. Because you only have so much time to implement these things. And so that's definitely part of it too. So you got to look at what is going to get you that best return, and how do you know what the best return is. And some of it is, to Kris's point, it can feel like you don't want to miss the boat, but how do you really know? And like, I get like with international selling, I had someone email me recently about like, I really think I should be going into the UAE because I think I could dominate there. But what is the potential of the market? So if you're not selling in the UK, I wouldn't go to UAE yet. Like maybe down the road, and I would do Walmart over UAE for Amazon, because you got to look at what is the size of the market you're going into.
Yeah. I can do a little anecdotal story about
go for it.
A decision that I just made, because I was talking about online arbitrage earlier, which is it's unique. But so my private label product line, like I mentioned, has become very commoditized. Okay, I've got a lot of capital tied up into it. I've got, the sales they're going to be what they are,
right?
But since I have to essentially lower my price to stay relevant now, my margins are squeezed. So the return on investment from my dollars, how long they sit in the warehouse and how fast they sell, and then I'm getting a smaller ROI, made me sort of have to change tactic, because I want to allocate capital to a new private label brand where I do it more in the model I was talking about before, create a really good brand, et cetera. Well, we had a guy on our podcast talking about online arbitrage. This is about a month ago. And the returns are insane if you find the right product. You're talking about flipping your money almost immediately with very much lower risk. It's already established. All the numbers. It's very simple. So I made a commitment where I'm going to allocate some of my capital right now to where I can quickly double it again really quick. And now I can do private label. I can just keep that running, but do private label launches. So I've kind of let where I am right now go, but go to a place where I can get a quicker return, so I can do something new. So I think everyone needs to make those evaluations. I think that we talk a lot about private label, but some of the biggest revenue sellers on Amazon are wholesalers or resellers. I mean, the vast majority of the, when you see someone they're doing 10 figures, a lot of times those are wholesalers. And, the online arbitrage that I'm trying to do right now is a little bit more in that vein, because I'm not going to Walmart clearance. I'm trying to find something where there's a consistently different price point, so that I can order hundreds, 200 units and then resell them. I was showing Kris a couple of the examples. I mean, some of these have ROIs of 300%, and it's insane. And they're selling really fast. And it's okay, let me focus there. And you almost treat it the same way, but you don't have to make all the listings and everything. So I think everybody needs to make those decisions based on what they're looking at, but focus on the right ROI is the key.
Interesting. That's a good point too, is, what is that ROI? Think a little bit different, because if everyone's going into the one particular session because that's what they're excited about, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the best one for you. Maybe there's a session on online arbitrage where you can focus your time, and there's 30 people in there. But those 30 people, if they really go after it, they're going to get a lot better return on their time and investment than the 300 people in the other room, just as an example.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I agree 100%.
Awesome. So this is great conversation. I want to respect you guys' time. I know you have somewhere to go here in just a couple minutes. So tell us, where can people go if they want to follow you and learn more?
Kris, go for it.
Solozo.com, book a demo. You can talk to either Dustin or I. We'll chat anything Amazon. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, but LinkedIn. But I would say the quickest way to get a hold of us, Solozo.com, and just book a call.
And how do you spell Solozo for those listening?
Sellozo. Sellozo.
Yep. That's perfect for anybody also who needs help with their advertising. We can certainly help out there. But the other place is listen to our podcast, Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone.
Yes. Yeah. Great conversation. Yeah. You guys are good at the conversation and keeping it flowing, which could be harder sometimes when you have two hosts. So you guys have a good dynamic there. So definitely recommend folks check out that. And I'll have a link to at least the episode that I was on. They can check out additional episodes as well. So thank you so much, guys.
That was awesome. Thanks.
Appreciate it.